Hello and welcome to SFDC Sessions number 8, in which we look at the nourishing kitchen. Now more than ever, the kitchen is a core space of gathering, restoring, and feeding of body and soul. And today we're joined by 3 designers who will share their insight into creating kitchens that are elegant, functional, and even purposeful. Please join us as we speak with Christopher PEACOCK, the founder of the extraordinary cabinetry company that bears his name, John de la CRUZ, the honoree of House Beautiful's 2017 Kitchen of the Year, and the designer of beloved restaurants like KRISTIN and Leo's Oyster Bar, and many residences throughout the Bay Area and beyond, and RICCIO, the interior designer and winner of the SFDC's design competition, Kitchen Collective. Thank you for joining us, and as always, our thanks to the Design Center and Rhonda Harada for giving us this platform for exploration and education. And I wondered if we could start by talking about how a kitchen in a home can really kind of set the tone, set the energy for a day, and maybe how you go about as a designer maximizing the practicality and the efficiency to enable calm. Christopher, would you mind starting us out?
Sure. That journey kind of starts for me in design, really from the outside of the house working in. So when we're designing, we actually start to think about, okay, if you're coming home with groceries, how are you coming into the house? How far is that journey from the door to the kitchen? Where are you unloading stuff? Where are you dumping the mail? Where are you throwing your car keys? And then how does everything get sort of put into its proper place to set you up for when you then begin your process? So that sort of moment of morning calm can be either easy or disturbed by how well your kitchen is organized. And I think that's really, for me, how I start that process is actually trying to think about what just good organization, practical organization. I'm not a gadget person. I can't stand kitchen gadgets. I like simple, practical storage that works and doesn't break. So organizing drawers properly and storage is kind of how I think you do it.
Yeah, I love, it's the first time I'd ever heard someone use this phrase, but you talked about the journey of the kitchen, which I thought was really wonderful. And I think maybe what you're articulating is the fact that that can have a flow depending on the way the kitchen's been properly engineered and designed. And John, if you wouldn't mind, you had a great way of thinking about this because of your experience designing much beloved commercial spaces, restaurants like KRISTIN and Leo's Oyster Bar, that you think in terms of zones.
Correct. Yeah. To further Christopher's point, when I approach designing a kitchen, whether it be a small kitchen for one in a condo in a huge apartment building or a big family kitchen of 6 or 8 people, I approach it in terms of zones. And the most important zone is the breakfast zone. And then you have the cleaning zone, the cold prep zone, the hot cook zone. And then sometimes if it's a big enough kitchen, you'll have a baking zone, and maybe there'll be like a larder or a huge walk-in pantry, and that's a food storage zone. And as long as you kind of allocate those spaces, and it's scalable again, like if there's a little corner of the kitchen where everything that you need for breakfast is there, your coffee, your cream, your bagels, your bowls for cereal, the spoons, if it's all in one place, then it really kind of streamlines your thought, and you can just go to there, get it all done. And if you separate these zones, then more than one person can be in the kitchen doing a different task, and it starts to really work out well. And there's a term called mise en place, where everything is in its place. And on a micro level, it's like getting a recipe ready and having all your ingredients ready to cook. On a macro level, it's having the kitchen and having everything where it needs to be, where it should be, so that you can go about your work efficiently and the cleanup efficiently too.
And KRISTIN, you're you're home with your son right now during quarantine. And so how has that worked for you?
It's definitely been a challenge. And I think that as designers, everything that Christopher and John already spoke about, reigns true at home for us. And I think definitely having, and our clients can attest to this now too, having everybody at home and needing this one space, which is the heart of the home, really, function in so many different ways, has really challenged us to think. So we have started zoning things out, even though our kitchen isn't as grand as some of our client spaces. It really is about maximizing what we can do in these spaces and making them as efficient as possible. So, to touch on some of the points that have already been made, I think a lot of it is about adjacencies, and a lot of it is about organization and, having just what you need. I think the other part of it is, some of us have collections, some of us have large collections of pieces that we might use some of the time, but it's like having the pieces that you just need day to day more accessible. Mm-hmm. And so it's not so overwhelming when you're trying to find what you need. It's all sort of right there. We have our island, we have this like very large butcher block island. And I want that to feel like a bounty of whatever we need, whatever is like most fresh. So it's like all there and just really accessible. And I think it helps to make it feel warm.
Right. No, that's a beautiful point when it comes to bounty too, because KRISTIN, as you and I were discussing, so many people right now are turning to their gardens and creating potages of herbs and vegetables that they can then cook with, obviously more so than ever. And I wondered how you see kind of a kitchen becoming part of that mindset of ecology. You said that you had started to plant a garden and had gone to, pick some fruit. How are you integrating that?
Well, I think a lot of our mindsets have shifted while we're at home. And, if we're fortunate enough to have that outdoor space, it is an extension of where we can live right now. And as I mentioned to you, us spending time in the garden is something we enjoy. And it's also for children, I think that what I've read is that it encourages an understanding and an empathy towards animals and plants for the rest of someone's life. Mm. So we're really encouraging that time in the garden. And I think that a lot of our clients are going to want that too. I mean, I think you have a relationship with the food that you're growing outside. And I think some of the things we talked about were what's seasonal, and it kind of can inspire the recipes that you want to be cooking. So if you're growing herbs, or you have fruit trees outside, or you have raised beds with carrots and kale and tomatoes, that can really inspire what you want to make for dinner, and it becomes a more engaging part of the process.
Right. And Christopher, you were saying, obviously to accommodate environmental awareness as much as we can, we're now accommodating like 4 different bins in a kitchen, right? So there's recycling and compost.
Yeah,
speak to that too? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think, everything that KRISTIN's saying is true. I mean, there's been a real shift. I think that there seems to be, whether it's a renewed awareness, but there is now an awareness about growing your own food and cooking. I mean, our clients are actually using their kitchens, which is a wonderful thing. We've all been forced into this quote lockdown, and have had to become resourceful. And resourceful means, in many cases, people are actually cooking their own food instead of ordering, which is a wonderful thing. And so they're discovering actually these kitchens that a lot of them have had for some time that they haven't been really using. And in the process of discovery, they're understanding how to use the kitchen and what they need and what they don't need. So whether it's, more trash storage, for organized trash, for composting, for obviously recycling, the different types of recycling, etc. That's absolutely become part of the conversation now, as well as a lot more fresh ingredients and sort of storage of fresh things.
And John, I love that you talked about, as Christopher's saying, as we sort of like overcome this disconnect between ourselves and the natural world, maybe not for all of us, many have stayed, are in that space a lot, but, you had talked about working with chefs and the fact that you can almost extract the design of the kitchen from the taste of their food or how they craft their food. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, chefs are really passionate people, and it's all about the senses to them. And sometimes like you said, I just need to taste the food to understand how or what the vision is of the look and feel of the space, because there's technique, and there's flavor, and there's color, and there's texture, and how you assemble a plate that really kind of informs me on the kind of space that they probably like to be in.
That's such a magical thing, John, don't you think? It's when I asked you, if a chef's cuisine, how a chef's cuisine inspires the design, it didn't even occur to me taste would be first. And you were talking about, for example, at KFICO, that everything is handcrafted and beautifully hand-tended.
A mano.
Yes. And so can you give us an example of how you kind of took that taste and translated it into the design?
Well, the chef there, he makes all of his own salumi. Hand rolls all the pasta himself every day. He has a sourdough starter that he's had since the beginning of the, and that's what all the doughs come from.
Wow.
So that personal approach to everything that they serve on the plate is, that was the driving force in the design.
Yeah.
So we looked at handcrafted tiles. We looked at bench-made furniture that was custom for them. We looked at things that were more about technique and not just about color or look.
Right.
I'm listening to you, Jonathan, and we're talking about the ingredients of the food. It's really the ingredients of the design as well, isn't it? I mean, exactly that analogy of taking those elements and taking these individual sort of design elements of a handcrafted tile or a piece of furniture as part of the ingredient to sort of make up the finished piece. That's really cool.
Obviously, your cabinetry is so superb, and everything you do is so incredibly customized too. So I love that idea, of taking something so personal as a taste and expanding that into a design. Can you speak a little bit to how you are personalizing kitchens so beautifully and specifically to the client?
Sure. I mean, I think that we've sort of created a bit of a market for ourselves where that's what people are coming to us for. They really want this highly individualized product and something which is an extension of their home, which is in turn an extension of their personality, really. I mean, I think that when we start the process with the client, like all of us do, I think, we really need to understand the client and their home and how they live, and then take all of those factors and then tailor it to their needs. And this can show itself in lots of different ways. But for us, it's lots of details, down to the screw head, down to the color of the metal, to mixing metals, to introducing leather, mixing different woods and paint finishes together, so that when you see the finished presentation, it's like a palette essentially of different colors and materials and textures. And I think if we bring all of that to the table and talk it through with the client, that's how we really get something which ultimately is very personalized and for them.
And one of the wonderful things about your studio is that you've had the same workshop, the same group of artisans for the past 20 years, I believe.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, over 20 years now. Yeah, so we make everything ourselves in West Virginia, in our own workshop. Everything's made to order. Nothing's pre-made. We bring in raw lumber and then we mill the lumber, and then we literally hand build everything. I mean, we use machinery as we need to use machinery, but everything is essentially bench built, which is wonderful. And it's a really cool group of people down there that are doing that.
Yeah. It was really wonderful to hear more about that community. And, KRISTIN, just looking to you, you had said that that's been one of the key points for you as well, as your opportunity to work, particularly during COVID, as resources kind of changed, with local artisans. And collaboration has always been such a huge part of your practice and what you do. Can you share how, you've kind of created that community for your projects?
Sure. Yeah, I think that it's really about connecting people with the product, similar to what John was talking about when he talks about the concept, and similar to what Christopher's talking about with his team that have been building this. I think there's such a tactile quality to what we present and provide to our clients, and they're not just random objects. I think that we have a real opportunity to educate our clients about where the products come from, who the makers are. And what I found over the years is the more we start to do that, people have really connected to those stories. And, I think it's often a selling tool to say, this is somebody that we work with in Oakland. We've worked with them for 10 years. We love this about what they do. And then, I think that the clients start to understand more about the depth and the meaning of the product. And, we have an opportunity to educate them about craftsmen from around the world. And there's so many wonderful products, as we all know. But to your point now, we really had a shift 3 months ago when we started sourcing. I was really trying to just manage our clients' expectations and wanted to only be sourcing locally as much as possible, which has challenged us to find new resources. And it's really been fantastic because we found a lot of new great people to work with, and it feels really good. There's a gratifying feeling of also supporting the local community here that, we've all been hurting, and it feels good to connect new artisans with our clients and to support their craft as well.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And, we're blessed to have such an extraordinary food community, obviously, in the Bay Area. And, Christopher, you live in Connecticut, but you have a showroom space, obviously a beautiful space at the Design Center. And I wondered what other sort of culinary experiences or food ecology experiences that you've had during this period that you'd like to see incorporated into kitchens going forward. KRISTIN, again, while we're chatting, you had mentioned something about your Imperfect Foods delivery. Can you share a little bit about that?
I hope that if you're not familiar with it, you guys who are watching will explore it. So there's a lot of different food delivery options, as we know, but Imperfect Produce are, the company basically ships out products that are not as beautiful or glamorous, so they don't make it to market, or they're not going to the farmers markets. So you essentially get a box every week of these imperfect items. And not only, are you taking the leftovers, but it's also seasonal. And so you're taking whatever is the most fresh, and then you sort of get what you get, and you figure out, okay, what are we going to start making this week? What are we going to eat with this?
Right.
And it's great. It's and you're supporting.
It's like what Joni Mitchell said, "I'll give me my spots on my apples," right? I'll take spots on my apples, but give me the birds and the bees, right?
Right, exactly.
That's
exactly.
Lovely. Yeah. And John, it was funny. I was asking you about forgive me. I was asking you about chicken coops because we've seen such a resurgence of that, and you said you had 3 clients asking for that recently.
Chicken coops are the new wine cellar. Besides the raised planting beds and the chicken coops, I've been working a lot with landscape architects on putting those in, because again, it's something that they can do with the family. It's yet another alternative way to educate the kids, and it's a sustainable resource. The chickens keep laying eggs, and then you have beautiful farm fresh, or I should say backyard fresh breakfast.
Right. Yeah, and there've been, it's interesting, isn't it? There are a lot of architectural sort of takes on it. There is the igloo for housing chickens. Right. And how about you, Chris, in Connecticut or in San Francisco? Is there anything that you're finding inspiration in right now?
Well, I certainly think that the homegrown produce is a big thing for me personally. So that's something which I'm planning on doing myself, which I haven't done yet. But I do want to do that. Not going to supermarkets or to food locations has forced us sort of off of that path. Right. And I don't think we'll ever go completely back to it. Certain things we will, because it's convenience. But once you get into this mindset of, let's just have a regular order, like I'm really interested in hearing more about that produce delivery, KRISTIN. So that sounds fantastic, and why wouldn't we do that? Because we're doing so much. We're doing good for ourselves. We're helping other people. We're helping the community. We're helping the earth. So I think that I've found inspiration in all of those things, and will continue to do so. I just think running to the supermarket now is a bit of a cop out. We've all learned that there are better ways to do things. I have a good friend actually who has a chicken coop. We don't have one, but my friend does, and we were forever bugging them for fresh eggs because we couldn't get eggs, and I have three relatively grown boys now back at home with me, and the amount of food that they consume is just beyond. We were just plowing through food, and so getting good food or getting decent food to eat was actually quite a challenge. So that's a shift, and I think that our clients and the community will embrace this for sure.
Yeah. Absolutely. And, each of you as such extraordinary designers of kitchen spaces and nourishing spaces, may I ask you one last question as we kind of leave this for the interior designers in the Bay Area? Is there anything percolating for you in terms of what you would like to see in your ideal kitchen design going forward? I don't want to put you on the spot, but anything that this moment is in color or texture or tactility that's inspiring you? KRISTIN, do you mind if I ask?
Sure. I think that, you know, what we're going to see more of, and similar to what Christopher, you were talking about, is these custom spaces that are more inspired, that are more unique. You know, like I think there was this white kitchen trend, and I think there is this essence of cleanliness that certainly we all want to feel, especially now. But I think that since we are going to be spending more time in these spaces, there is going to be a tactile quality that makes it feel warmer. So whether we do tend back towards a stained wood rather than a painted, or a more, you know, we're working on a kitchen now, and we're really challenging our client because I wanted these really heavy hammered pulls and knobs. And I felt like there was just this like more homey, tactile feeling, and it really changed the whole look of the space.
Yeah.
But I think that that sort of warmth is what's inspiring us moving forward. Something that feels more intentional, more functional, and less of this showpiece.
No more white tile. Stainless steel. I've had enough. I want color.
Right.
Yeah, just to further her point, mix the materials up and make it a little bit more personal and more like, I always say the kitchen is the new living room, so why can't it be colorful and warm and pretty, and not just be a laboratory that needs to be hosed down once a day and be super, super clean, because we're living in it, you know, all day long now.
And that embrace of all of those textures and colors too, I think, creates more of a sense of intimacy where people might, be, or families might be inspired to linger and talk more. And
Well, I think there's a permanence now. I mean, one of the things I feel that people are doing is actually, because they've spent time in their homes, and maybe more time than they've ever spent in their homes, they're thinking differently again. I mean, I know a lot of clients that are coming to us now and saying, we've decided we're staying where we are. We're not going to, this is going to be our forever home. It's not going to be, we don't have another move in us. And so we want to invest in this home. And so they are intent on spending the right amount of money to do things, you know, that are high quality and that will last a long time. There's a permanence to it. I think the whole white kitchen trend is, I mean, look, trust me, I'm thrilled it put my kids through college, you know, but I love the fact that people are thinking more permanently now, and they're not necessarily in spending money on kitchens or master bathrooms that look good for the next, for resale.
Right.
And
100%.
they're actually thinking now about, you know, appropriate materials, to your point, about how to use the space properly with the right countertops and with the right cutting boards and the right appliances that are going to last a long time and stand the test of time, and actually give them the ability to become cooks and chefs, and not think about it, and not worry about it looking perfect, you know.
So lovely, Chris, right? Because then that takes us full circle back to craftsmanship right. Again. Really investing in pieces that were made with care, made with love, that will endure, and it's just it brings everything kind of together.
You know, they have a story. I mean, I think that all of, you know, what KRISTIN was saying is that there's a story behind the maker, and the clients love that. I mean, they now are interested in the journey and the story of how that butcher block was made, or how that cabinetry was put together, and the materials. And I mean, they're genuinely interested in it. And that's so much nicer for us as designers, I think, to be able to, you know, back up what it is that we're trying to say with genuine input from the makers. So it's great. It's a renaissance in a way. I actually think this is a really exciting time.
Yeah. Again, what you're doing feels very intentional, very purposeful, and it kind of brings that space to the next level of what it can be for a family, right? How it can contribute to their well-being. And